Franchise Tag Betting Show. It is the Conference Championships. Me and Adam are here to go through all your betting needs. A bit of a small one this time, Adam. No trebles this week because there's not enough games. You got to be excited for these games. Two really good matchups.
Yeah, I think I was saying earlier in our group chat, I was very much like I think last weekend and this weekend are the two like really exciting weekends when it comes to the games. Not so, the Super Bowl's a bit all raw, and yeah, you normally get a bit of a naff game sometimes. So not so excited for that. But these two like really exciting games. They great teams as well. I'd probably argue that only the Lions have kind of got any form of weakness. I would argue that you can exploit. The others, I think, very strong teams and exciting. So yeah, it's good ones to go through.
Well, let's jump right into them and take a look then. So first up, the first game is the Kansas City Chiefs at the Baltimore Ravens. It's a 4-point spread for this one. Adam, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I was looking at. I think it's going to be a very tight game. It does feel like both defenses are very strong. The Ravens we've kind of said, haven't we, with the Ravens that we feel like they're probably the best defense in the league. The only one really to compete during the season was the Browns. But yeah, I feel like the Ravens have been the best. When it comes to giving up touchdowns, they're number one in the whole league and were for the whole season against giving up rushing and passing touchdowns. But the stats tell you that they're pretty good as well. The Chiefs are no slouches on the defense. They're pretty decent. They're in the top 10 on both sides when it comes to that as well. So it feels like it's going to be one of them games where I think you're going to get a lot of rushing in it. I think you will get plenty of passing as well, but I don't think it's going to be like a shootout. I don't think you're going to get one of them in this particular game. The spread's at -4 towards the Ravens being favourites. I quite like the -4 for the Ravens. I think that they are the better team, although the Chiefs have been very good. Well, they haven't been great compared to what they have been in previous years, but they have been good in the playoffs so far. I just feel like the Ravens that bit stronger, going to be at home, going to have the crowd on their side. I think that will be enough to get them over the line, and I would probably take the -4.
Yeah, with how dominant this Ravens team's been as well. Do you think we're kind of being tricked into believing in the Chiefs slightly? Obviously, they went up against the Miami team first, which was their defense had been heavily injured. It was freezing cold, and they performed. And then they played a Bills team, which yet again had been heavily depleted with injuries on that defense. And again, they performed. This Ravens team is not injured. It's very healthy. And I believe if I'm right, they've got Marlon Humphreys coming back this game as well, so they're going to have an extra person marking.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is talk about Marlon Humphrey being back. It's not been confirmed yet, I don't think, but yes, it is looking like that's going to happen. Obviously, Mark Andrews has been confirmed as being back as well, so that's two big names that have come back for this game. Yeah, I mean I think the Chiefs have been good. As you said, they haven't really. I think the Bills game was very much a shootout kind of game, especially in the second half, where it kind of felt like Allen did a bit and then Mahomes, and it was kind of like who was going to end up faltering. So the defense didn't really stop the Bills that much. I was actually a little bit surprised that the Bills managed to get up as many points as they did when I was watching the game. I think you kind of felt like they would do well before the game, but as the game panned out, I was surprised that it did become that bit of a shootout in the second half. Yeah, I just think the Ravens are a cut above, and it's something that I've been saying for most of the season.
Yeah, that front seven for the Ravens is absolutely stacked. And I think Roquan Smith bringing an addition into that has just elevated Patrick Queen as well. I think they're going to manage to shut down Pacheco as well. And as I said, Marlon Humphrey's back. Geno Stone's been playing really well. And Kyle Hamilton's just an absolute beast who might be able to be one of the only people to be able to take on and hit Travis Kelce. Yeah, I just think, obviously, last week I said the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, anything over a 3.5 point favorite was not good on the betting, and the Chiefs are very, very good as an underdog. But I can't see. I can see the Ravens winning this by more than the -4. I think the -4 is generous, and we should all be jumping on that. I think they could win this one quite comfortably.
Yeah, I think the reason, like, by being able to bring someone like Mark Andrews back into the offense as well, it's like, we've spoken about how great that Ravens defense is and has been all season, but the offense as well is no slouch. It's a very, very good offense as well. And Lamar under Todd Monken, I think, has clearly shown that he's capable in the passing game as well as rushing. I felt like against the Texans when they played, that they were a little bit rush heavy. He didn't seem like he wanted to get rid of the ball enough, especially in the first half. That was kind of how it felt. And then that sort of changed a little bit in the second half, and they kind of got a little bit more into their groove against the Texans. I think you're going to see that they're just going to be straight into it from the first minute in this particular game. And so that kind of just makes you feel a little bit like it's going to be tough for the Chiefs to keep up with it. I think Mahomes is great. He did very well against the Bills and kind of almost showed a bit of like what Patrick Mahomes we're used to seeing compared to what we've seen in some of the games this season. But it does just kind of feel a little bit like this is going to be very, very tough to be able to overcome against a Ravens team that is just incredibly strong in every department. And the one area that we always used to say they would struggle was in the receiving game. Well, they haven't been doing that. They've got loads of weapons with Flowers, and Andrews now back as well. Isaiah Likely's been great all the time Andrews has been out. I mean, you've even got the likes of Bateman and OBJ who aren't going to do loads, but are going to pitch in as well as Nelson Aguilar. I mean, there's just, it's kind of like a never-ending amount of players, really. And so it's just very difficult, I think, for the Chiefs to be able to keep up in this one.
Yeah, those two you mentioned just then, Bateman and OBJ, they don't need to do lots to contribute in this game, though, do they? With the first ones that you mentioned, they're going to take a lot. Also, Joe Thuney's out as well for the Chiefs, which I think is going to be a big loss. Should we take a look at some touchdown scorers for this game before we move on to the next one?
Yeah.
Just before we do, obviously I'm guessing you're really hot on the Ravens as well. What would you take as a minus for them? Would you move to 6.5 for this game, or do you think the 4 is correct and where you'd be at?
Yeah, I kind of felt like the 4 was about right. I do feel like it's not a touchdown difference in this game. I think the Chiefs are still a very good side, and so I don't like the idea of really pushing it that much away from that. I just feel like they're a decent side and they're going to be able to do plenty in this particular game. But yeah, I think it's one of them where it's just like, it's a tough one to come out and go, oh, I think it's going to be loads more. To me, that feels about right.
Especially when it's Patrick Mahomes. It's just so hard.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? It's that's enough to kind of like put you off of going too far against him. And you just know, no matter how good this Ravens defense is, they will still concede points against Mahomes, and that's what's going to happen. I just feel like the Ravens have got a strong enough offense as well to really stop it.
Who do you like to get in the end zone then?
So looking at the end zone for the Ravens, obviously I like Andrews at 7-4. I think that price changed now. It was 7-4.
9-4.
Is it 9-4? So I like Andrews at 9-4. It was 7-4 when I looked at it last night. So yeah, I like the look of that. I feel like I don't expect him to, have like 100 yards plus or whatever, but I feel like he will be involved quite a bit as he's fully fit now. So yeah, Andrews at 9-4. I like the look of. And then the other one on the Ravens side that I kind of thought was a big price, I was a little surprised that he was as big as he was Nelson Aguilar. Now, we've seen Aguilar get involved in quite a few games now. He seems to be a target that Lamar quite likes. And so at 6-1, or at least that's what he was, I feel like he's come in at 9-2. But even at 9-2, I think he's a decent price for you to go for. I would rather be putting my money on Aguilar than Bateman, personally.
Yeah. Are you not fancied by I know Andrews is back, but is likely not someone that you'd want to put your money on? Obviously, I think he's scored in the last 3 games, or the last.
Yeah, I mean,
scored in the last sort of 5 out of 6, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. He scored quite a few. I worry that he's going to end up losing quite a lot of his time out on the field because of Andrews, and that will slow that down. The thing you got to remember with the Ravens is obviously there is still quite a strong willingness to run the ball, and that is something that they do want to do quite a lot. I do wonder if with Andrews out there, whether likely he's going to end up becoming a bit of a blocker rather than anything else. So I don't know. 11-4 is a nice price for him because when he is out there, he is definitely a threat. I just feel like Andrews is the one that's going to end up taking over a little bit.
And is it still an absolute shot in the dark, absolute guess at which receiver it's going to go? We know it's going to go to Rashee Rice. We know it's going to go to Kelsey, but everyone's caught onto that now, and the odds are very short on both of those. Is there anyone you like outside of those two?
Not really. I mean, the only one I've got written down is Rice at 6-4. I haven't gone for Kelsey just purely because I think he is so short. I think that is probably an overreaction to last week. There's probably a feeling of, oh, he's back now and that's it. But the others, no, there isn't anyone really. I mean, there's plenty to choose from, and to be brutally honest, none of them are particularly that great. The only one that I can kind of think of who, to be honest, when he came in, he actually looked pretty good, but I just don't think he's going to get the opportunities because I think Pacheco is probably going to be the number one guy all the time. Was Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I thought he looked pretty decent when he came in against the Bills, but I don't think he's going to get enough game time in order to be able to do anything.
I think against the Bills, the third highest receiver was Noah Gray with 3 catches. Yeah. He's 10-1. Still not massively convinced on it, but just as a stat.
Yeah, it doesn't. I get where you're coming from because he is someone who has been used quite a lot. And I think he has actually popped up a few times, hasn't he, with scoring touchdowns in some big games because everyone marks Kelsey out of it, so they go to the other one. I just feel now because they've got 2 weapons that they feel comfortable going to, that they're the 2 that are going to get it the most, and the rest just don't really interest me much.
Should we move on to the second game? The Lions at the 49ers. Well, I don't know why, because the Ravens and Chiefs matchup with the 2 great quarterbacks and defense is going to be good. I'm a little bit more excited about 49ers Lions for some reason. How do you feel about this one?
I feel like the Packers should be in it. That's how I feel about it. I wouldn't. I don't know. I must admit, I'm quite excited for the first one more than the second one. I think I do wonder if maybe to me it feels like the first one is like the 2 big heavyweights coming together, and the second one feels like the Detroit Lions have turned up. So I'm not too sure about this one. To me, I always look at what's the weakness. There's always one weakness that you can find, and to me, the weakness for the Lions is very much that you can pass on them quite easily, I feel, and that is a big problem. You saw it against the Rams in the wild card round that Puka Nacua had an amazing game, and then you saw it last week as well with Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans. So it's like you can pass on this team. I think the 49ers are going to be able to do that. I think personally, I don't think Purdy is the most amazing quarterback, but I think he's more than capable of getting the job done. I think he's more than capable of winning the Super Bowl. I think he has that ability in that team. So I do feel like the 49ers are a team that will be able to exploit this, and they've got the weapons that will be able to get that job done. I think the biggest thing for the 49ers is going to be stopping Aiden Hutchinson. I think that's probably the biggest thing. If they can do that, then I think it's game over. Because I do feel like that is the Lions' main sort of thing when it comes to their defense. It's almost like send at Hutchinson to get there, and if it doesn't work, then we'll be passed on. So I think that's the big problem. The over unders at 7.5. I mean, it is massive. I've actually gone for the Lions at plus 7.5, just purely because I think that it will be closer than what the bookies are suggesting. Like I said, I believe that you can pass on the 49ers. On the Lions, you can pass on them, and that is not a problem. But I do feel like the Lions will be able to, score against the 49ers here. And because of that, I don't think it's going to be like a complete rout, which is the way that they're sort of implying that it's going to be.
I think this game can go either way. I think it's either going to be a real close one, or 49ers could just run away with it. It's really hard to call, especially looking at deeper into it and the players and who's out and things like that. Because the Lions unfortunately got a load of players banged up on that O-line, didn't they? Jahan Jackson left the game and he's out now. And Frank Ragnow, we saw him get injured and stay in the game, but looked in quite a lot of pain. I know he's had a lot of time to recover. But still, I think that's real tough for them, especially going up against the 49ers. We know what they can do with their front seven, obviously Bosa and Warner and things like that coming flying at you. So that kind of plays into a factor of, is Goff going to be able to get it done if they can't keep him upright? But the weapons that the Lions have got, I just think if Debo's not playing for the 49ers, might outweigh them slightly. I think when you look at it at Laporta, who's just insane. Amon-Ra St. Brown is the best at his position. The two running backs, obviously Gibbs and Monty. I think when you look at the 49ers, it's maybe Christian McCaffrey, Ayuk, who's good, but not, wide receiver one massively. And then an aging George Kittle that hasn't really got involved massively a lot this season. So yeah, I do kind of wonder which way this one's going to go.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. I personally, I would probably say that it's maybe a little bit more even than what you're saying on that. I agree with Amon-Ra. I think he's clearly a cut above anyone else that's going to be out there in the receiving game for that particular matchup. But I think Kittle's going to have a decent game here.
He's got to if Debo's not playing, hasn't he?
Yeah, he does. And so I feel like he will have a pretty solid game. Another one as well who I think will have a pretty solid game, who does get forgotten a little bit, but he does seem to get involved quite a bit when there is an injury, is Jauan Jennings. He does seem to be the one who can come in and do it, and it's a little bit frustrating that Bet365 don't have him in the markets for a lot of things. But yeah, he's definitely one that you can have, and I do like the look of Jennings in quite a few in this particular game. Definitely if Debo is out. But yeah, I feel like Christian McCaffrey is the cheat code a little bit after watching the Packers game against them and how they did against them. I felt like we did pretty well against them and we managed to hold them off a bit. But then Christian McCaffrey would just go for a run and would break the first tackle, and that run that should have been only 2-3 yards became 6 or 7, and you just can't beat that. And I think if Aiden Hutchinson can't stop him, I don't know who on that D-line will. That's the thing. And I just kind of think because of that, and because of the fact that the injuries that you've said on the Lions O-line as well, it's going to be tough, I think, for them to be able to overcome this one. Even with the likes of Amon-Ra, I think it's going to be tough.
Yeah, it's going to be real tough. A bit of a strange one, stat that came out earlier today that I saw. 44% of the people that are betting on the Lions are actually betting on the money line, not the spread. So there's a lot of people that are confident that not only they'll defy this plus 7.5, that the Lions are actually going to win this one.
Yeah, I mean, if you think the Lions are going to win, then obviously the money line is the obvious place to go. I mean, like I say, I went plus 7.5 in this one just because I think it's too much. But I don't think that the Lions are going to win it. So it's like there's no point me going on the money line sort of thing. I can understand it. I think if you're confident and you believe in it, then I can understand it. The 49ers are, I think, what surprises me is it was -7. So the fact money has obviously come for the 49ers at -7. They didn't look great against the Packers, and so I would have thought it actually would have gone the other way. So I'm a little bit surprised it's gone in that direction. But I think in the same way with the Ravens, they struggled. It was a tough game against the Packers, and it was a tough conditions that they were playing as well. There's not meant to be any rain at all for this game, so that shouldn't affect either quarterback when it comes to it. But yeah, I just feel like they're probably going to be a little bit better, and maybe there's encouragement about Debo. I don't know.
Yeah, he's 50-50, isn't he? They've not said that, and obviously he's got an extra day's rest as well. So they're keeping the cards close to the chest with that one. Obviously, it is what makes a difference in this one. So I think if once that's released, if we know more, I think we might see these lines change quite a bit. So yeah, maybe jumping on them now and early might be a sensible idea with this game, and don't wait for it. Adam, what players do you like in this game for your touchdowns?
So as I mentioned, when it comes to the 49ers, I like to look at Kittle in this one. He's short. They're all short, to be honest, for the 49ers. But Kittle, I like to look of. And then probably a small punt on Jauan Jennings. If Debo is out, I think that he, at a little bit of a bigger price, is the one to go for. On the Lions side, I don't believe that Montgomery is going to have much of a game in this. The 49ers are well known for being able to stop the run, but the one area that they struggled against Aaron Jones last week. Now, the reason they struggled against Aaron Jones was because he didn't run up the middle, he ran on the sides. They struggled to stop that as much. So it seems like it's an obvious one where Gibbs is going to have the sort of like the receiving game and be able to get out on the sides a bit more than what Montgomery will. So if they try and pound it through the D line with Montgomery, I don't think it's going to do much. So I do like the look of Gibbs at 13-10. I think he's a good price. And then the only other one really for me, Laporta, just because he gets so many receptions. Goff's going to go to him. I think that if the O-line does struggle a little bit, I think it's going to be Laporta is going to be the sort of safety net in the same way that we've always said with Jalen Hurts and Dallas Goedert. I think it's going to be a similar thing. And so Laporta at 7-4 is the other one that I like the look of for the Lions. There are a few others that have sort of like come into the Lions that are slightly bigger prices. They've been around. I know Brock Wright got involved quite a bit in the last game. I think Josh Reynolds has been involved, Khalif Raymond during the season as well. But really, I just feel like it kind of is the obvious ones that are going to get the main touchdowns and be involved in the main plays in this one.
Yeah, Josh Reynolds is a big one for me. He's been massively utilised over the last 3 weeks, especially. I think he's had something like 12, 13 catches. I know he's had 1 touchdown, but he's more of a receptions guy than in the end zone touchdown. I know he got the one against Tampa Bay, but he's only had 5 on the season. But yeah, really like him for receptions. looking at it across the board, I think the odds are just super short on everyone, all the way down to Laporta.
Yeah.
Like, there's not much money here on this one, but yeah, I think if it was lines, it'd be Laporta and Gibbs for me. And then I really only confident on McCaffrey, definitely for the 49ers.
Yeah, it's a like really tough one. This one, like I say, I mean the CMC is ridiculously short, obviously, but Brandon Ayuk is even money. I mean that's crazy short. I think. I mean there's a lot more value in touchdown scorers in the other game. I think, and the reason behind that, I believe, is that they think that you've got two really solid defenses in the AFC Championship, so there'll be less touchdowns. So they're more willing to give you a slightly better price. This one, I feel like they just think that, as I said, I mean, you look at the stats and it makes sense, that the Lions were 28th in the season when giving up passing touchdowns. So obviously every wide receiver or tight end for the 49ers is going to be that much shorter, because I think, if this was a regular season game, I think you'd probably all come out and go, well, the 49ers are at home and are probably going to score quite a few points against them. So that's why it is what it is. Yeah, it's not really a touchdown scorer game, this one.
So obviously we are doing things slightly different today, because we are not doing our trebles. Instead, what we've been doing off air in our little group, we've been doing a lot of bet builders over the year, and they've been very successful for us. I think we all had winners last week with our bet builders, and I know myself and you, Adam, have had quite a bit of success with them this year. So we're going to create some bet builders for you. Adam, you've got the first game. Do you want to let me know what you've had?
Yeah, so I did the Chiefs against the Ravens one. So what I've done is I've gone Travis Kelce 50 plus receiving yards, Mark Andrews 50 plus receiving yards, Rashee Rice 50 plus receiving yards, Isaiah Pacheco under 85.5 rushing and receiving yards, and then Mark Andrews 4 plus receptions, just because I think he's going to be out there, and if he gets to 50 yards, he's probably going to have the 4 plus receptions. So my sort of theory behind it is very much that I feel that Kelce and Rice are the two main options for Mahomes, and there's going to be loads of receptions go there, which means they'll pass the 50 yards. I think Mark Andrews, if they wouldn't have put him out there, I don't think, unless he was fit. And so 50 yards, it feels like it's not that much for Mark Andrews. He's someone who normally does better than that. I think he gets to 4 receptions. And then I kind of agree with what you said earlier. I feel like that front seven of the Ravens are just going to slow down Pacheco. This isn't a market I normally get involved with, but I very rarely go unders. I normally go overs. But I really don't see Pacheco being able to essentially have 90 yards. It just feels like it's a lot in this game, where I think two defenses are going to probably take control.
Yeah, I massively agree with you on that one. I thought they were going to shut him down. So yeah, really like that one. What were the odds on that one?
That was 16-1.
Oh, decent. Before we came on all week, we split the games up. We said, Adam, you'll do the early one. Sky was adamant he wanted to do a joint bet builder plus, and I was left with the Lions 49ers game. And I thought, well, that's all right. I'm quite happy with that one. I've won quite a bit of money on the Lions already. They've been quite helpful for me until I started to look at the game. And I'm just going to bring it back up, which you briefly mentioned it earlier. You only get odds on 3 of the players for the 49ers.
So I think that, I can only assume that the theory behind this is that they're waiting for the news on Deebo Samuel.
Yeah. They don't want to give you overinflated odds on Jennings and then the Deebo be out and everybody winning and vice versa with Deebo. But it made it very, very difficult to put much money on the 49ers side of the ball, who we all think is going to win. But nonetheless, I have created a little bet builder in which I have had Christian McCaffrey, anytime touchdown scorer, Laporta, anytime touchdown scorer, Josh Reynolds over 2.5 receptions. Christian McCaffrey over 36.5 receiving yards. And Gibbs over 23.5 receiving yards. That comes in at 18-1. I thought that was I feel like both those running backs could get those yardage with one catch. They've got the ability after the catch ability. So, and we just said Reynolds was a bit of a reception machine over the last 3 weeks. I think it's the Laporta touchdown scorer that's going to be the one, but
yeah, that's probably going to be the hardest one. But I do feel like he is the one who, in the receiving game. I know Amon-Ra's there as well, but I do feel like he's going to be. I think Goff's going to get a bit nervous in this one, and I don't think he's necessarily going to be quite as good as what he has been. So I can see using the tight end is what is going to end up happening a lot here. The only thing that would be annoying is if Zach Ertz comes on and takes it from him.
Yeah, what are the odds on? Is it Zach Ertz 6-1 anytime? I might just have a cheeky fiver on that just to cover me. I was just gonna say if you did, because originally I think I put Gibbs in it when I first started, and then changed some stuff about it. I think if you put Gibbs in instead of Laporta, it only brings it down to 16-1. I think so. It's not loads different. If you wanted to swap it out and you're really high on Gibbs, who gets involved in both rushing and receiving, but I thought I'd gone a bit hard on Gibbs if I've gone two things with him. But hey, should we move on to Sky's big double bet?
Well, it's interesting. Sky's done one for both games and put it together. But both of ours, as single ones, are higher odds. So we've got a 16 and an 18. He's come up with a 7 and a 9. And I have to say, I'd rather have ours. So for the Chiefs-Ravens game, he has gone for MVS over 1.5 receptions and MVS over 13.5 receiving yards, and Rashad Bateman over 2.5 receptions and Rashad Bateman over 23.5 receiving yards, which is 7-1 for that to happen. Now, I understand the logic that he's used, because the logic is that if you think that MVS is going to get 2 receptions, he will get over 13.5 yards sort of thing. And that's the same with Bateman. So I do get the theory. I just feel like Bateman, I think, yes, probably will. MVS just disappears from games. It's like it's entirely possible that MVS just has one massive play and then you don't see him for the rest of the game. So he could easily go over the 13.5, but if he's only caught the ball once, that's not helpful. So that's for that one. For the Lions 49ers game, he's gone David Montgomery over 5.5 receiving yards, which I'm not against because Monty does get involved a little bit, but not too excited about. Gibbs over 22.5 receiving yards, as we've said, I think that's fine. Gibbs over 3.5 receptions, again, I think that's probably fine. And then Sam Laporta over 5.5 receptions. So that's just a matter of whether they have enough offense in order to do it. But I do think that could quite easily happen. That's 9-1. If you throw it all together, it's 79-1.
I take the 9-1. I like the 9-1 bet on the second game. I really like that one. I'm surprised that's 9-1 and the other one is 7-1. I mean, I took the MVS receptions last week, but it was at 0.5 last week, and I thought he's going to have one because he always has one, doesn't he? Yeah. Well, I think 1.5. I think you're right. Is maybe scary. I think one is his limit. And then to put it in there with Bateman as well, I think that's the thing. You put together two players that don't particularly get involved all the time. I think if it was MVS and someone you're confident on, like maybe Mark Andrews in there for that one, I think I'd be more inclined to go, yeah, I might take that. But it's two risky players in there, whereas his Lions bet is all solid people that are going to get involved. So
yeah. I mean that was kind of what I thought. I quite like the look of the Lions one. I thought it was all right. I was a little surprised he didn't go for anyone from the 49ers, I must say, but then maybe it's because the odds were just too short.
Yeah, well, it's short, and you've got the choice of 3 people. That's why.
That is
and
true.
and when you look at their what you've got on them, it's like really, really high. Like they'd be like Ayuk, like over like 7 catches, and you're like, oh, I like him, but is he going to hit, like stuff like that? So it's tough to put any 49er players other than McCaffrey in your bet.
Yeah. So it's I can't get on board with MVS. I'm sorry. I've been burned for too many years. Burned for too many years with that man. So it's like I can't get on board with it, and I just I think that's what's going to let it down. But I have to say that I thought our 16 and 18 one is definitely a doable one. So yeah, that would be interesting to see what that comes out as.
Yeah, if a lot of this went over your head, if you are watching and you're unsure of what we picked, don't go back and listen again and try and figure out what it was. We're going to put these out onto our social media as bets and get them displayed, so you can copy it, get it down. Hopefully we've got you some winners. Like I said, we've had quite a bit of success with the bet builders over the last few weeks, so hopefully we can do it again. It'd be a nice little one, as there is only 2 more weeks left of American football, and then I'm guessing the Super Bowl. I'm guessing we'll have a special show. I might get see if some of the other guys, see if Freddie's available for some stupid bets in the Super Bowl one, so we can get Gatorade colors and halftime shows and all that jazz. But that's it for the conference championship games. Good luck if your team's still in it. Unfortunately, none of ours are. And keep it with the franchise tag, and we will be back for the Super Bowl.